through my efforts to educate myself to be the best leader that I can be, I found myself having so many questions, more questions than I had answers for. I had the most curious conversation at my uncle's memorial with one of his other nieces. I can't remember exactly how the conversation started, but I do remember mentioning something about racism and my social justice movement I've been working on. And she told me racism doesn't exist. Which we just had the George Floyd protests all over our country. She told me it doesn't exist. That poor white people are just as much a victim to police profiling and brutality as POC. To me, the fact that she wasn't willing to open her eyes, that the George Floyd protest did nothing to awaken her, made me greatly worried for the future of our country. Because I always saw my uncle's extended Mormon family as more liberal, as more well-balanced than the religious upbringing that I had. And I was saddened because I thought someone who I saw as liberal is denying that racism exists. How can I wake up people who don't even acknowledge the problem? How can I educate other white people if they don't feel they have anything left to learn? Or if they feel that in changing their viewpoint, in acknowledging that racism exists, that hate exists, that hate crimes exist, when they would have to change and do something, and that in their changing that might cause them to lose some of their financial security and comfort. How do you get anyone to change if they have no incentive to do so, and they see they're doing so as something of detriment to themselves? And I saw in that moment, we have so much work to do before we will ever have true equality and equanimity in our country. And this has greatly bothered me. The fact that racism exists. The fact that I just woke up to it. I have to educate myself. And the fact that there are so many people who aren't even willing to wake up, willing to read a book, willing to educate themselves. We live in such a self-serving world and society. How can we change it? And the people who I thought easily would be allies, easily who could react in shock. The discoveries I've made don't even see it as a problem which needs to be addressed. That they have the privilege to live their entire lives without ever addressing it, without ever seeing it as something that needs their voice or their attention. And they always live through the filter of, those are poor people are undeserving, and poor people are othered. And it's not just white people. Black people do it too. I read that in the 80s, the 70s, when the black middle class was emerging, the black churches were advocates for tough crime because they saw this as a way to separate themselves from the others, from the poor, to solidify the new emerging Black middle class to solidify their place in society. If we all are willing to take the poor of our race and other them so that we can get ahead, so that we can maintain our place in society, or not have to deal with the guilt of society, the racial guilt that we each carry. How are we ever going to change the world? Because even poor white people will hurt themselves in order to carry out racist policies. If they are racist, they don't care. And wealthy white people will always put racism and prejudices upon the poor white people, as if being a racist is something you can only be or do if you are poor. You can't justify the sins of our ancestors, the sins of our culture against each other any longer, if we are ever to create a better world. And right now we are in a time of reset, and I believe that's a gift that we must grab, we must grasp, and we must embrace to create a better world, and a better future, and a better right now, right here. We must legalize the humanity. Now is a time for humanity. If we don't embrace our humanity and confront the truths we don't want to hear, we will lose ourselves to corporate profiteers. We will forever lose our culture, possibly our middle class, and our government. These are some of the questions I've been asking of myself. How can we change our world? What policies, what beliefs, what systems, what filters need to be changed and created in order for there to be a better world? So I invite you to explore these questions with me, and if you have answers, to share them. That's all I know is I don't like the world the way it is. What we can do and be better. I believe that of us. If you agree, the world can and must become a better place, and we all must speak up in order to create the change we want to see, and you are willing to add your voice to this change, I welcome you to this journey, because a movement isn't a movement when it's just one person. I crave from the depths of my being to make the world a better place. And I've created this channel to sort through and sift through the differences between what we have been socialized to believe and what is true. No matter what you're going through, I want you to know you are worthy of love because you exist.